Okay, so I want to tell you about cloves. Not the usual stuff. Not cloves are full of antioxidants and good for digestion. You've heard that 100 times. I'm going to tell you what's actually happening inside your body when you eat one. Because I went down this rabbit hole for about 3 weeks and I came out the other side genuinely surprised. Here's where it started. There's a database run by the United States Department of Agriculture where they measured the antioxidant capacity of around 3,100 different foods. People always assume the winner is going to be something exotic. Acai, goji berries, some Amazonian fruit nobody can pronounce. It's none of those. The #1 antioxidant food on the list is the dried flower bud you probably have in a jar in your kitchen right now. Cloves. The score is around 314,000. Blueberries are around 14,000, so about 22 times more antioxidant power, gram for gram, than the berry every wellness influencer keeps talking about. But that's not even the interesting part. Antioxidant scores are kind of overrated, honestly. What's interesting is what the main compound in cloves, this thing called eugenol, actually does once it's inside you. Because the more I read, the more I realized this one little molecule was acting like 5 or 6 different prescription drugs at the same time, just depending on which organ it landed in. Let me walk you through it. Start with the liver. Most channels just say cloves are good for liver detox and move on. Lazy. The real story is more specific than that. There's an enzyme called CYP2E1. You don't need to memorize the name. What it does is process certain drugs and toxins, and one of the drugs it processes is Tylenol, acetaminophen. When you take too much Tylenol, this enzyme creates a poisonous byproduct that kills liver cells. Every Tylenol overdose death traces back to this exact pathway, and eugenol, the clove compound, inhibits that enzyme. There's a 2010 study on rats given liver toxins, and the eugenol-treated group had lower CYP2E1 activity, less inflammation, even protected DNA inside the liver cells. Then I came across something I didn't expect. Your liver runs detox in 2 phases. Phase 1 wakes up toxins so they can be processed. Phase 2 grabs them and flushes them out. Problem is, Phase 1 sometimes turns harmless compounds into things that can damage your DNA. You actually want Phase 2 to be stronger than Phase 1. In a rat study with dietary eugenol over 4 weeks, the Phase 1 enzyme dropped to about 40% of normal, and Phase 2 enzymes went up 2 to 3 times. The clove was literally rebalancing the detox system in the right direction. One more thing on the liver, and this is the part I think most people skip. Eugenol also activates a pathway that involves a hormone called GLP-1. If that sounds familiar, yeah, same hormone Ozempic targets, same hormone Wegovy uses, same pathway for fatty liver. Now, obviously, eating cloves is not the same as taking Ozempic, let me be very clear about that. But the fact that this spice is nudging the exact same machinery, that's not nothing. Quick warning before we move on. Eugenol also slows down 2 other liver enzymes called CYP3A4 and CYP2D6. Those 2, between them, process about half of all prescription medications on Earth. So if you're on regular meds and you suddenly start eating fistfuls of cloves daily, you can actually change how those drugs behave in your body. Don't do that. Talk to your doctor. This is a real thing, not theoretical. All right, the pancreas. This was the most surprising finding for me out of everything. There's this protein in your blood called albumin. When your blood sugar runs high, glucose sticks to albumin and forms damaged molecules that go on to attack the cells in your pancreas that make insulin. It's a slow grind that happens in every diabetic over years. Researchers ran a computer simulation comparing how strongly glucose binds to albumin versus how strongly eugenol binds. Eugenol won, almost double the binding strength, which means eugenol is essentially shoving glucose out of the way, taking its parking spot, and blocking the damage from ever happening. I had to read that paper twice because I didn't believe it the first time. There's also a randomized clinical trial, actual humans, not rats, where 70 adults with metabolic syndrome took clove polyphenol extract for 12 weeks. Their fasting sugar improved, post-meal sugar improved, HbA1c improved, insulin resistance improved. The control group taking a regular antioxidant got none of these benefits. So whatever clove is doing in the pancreas, it's not just antioxidant noise, it's something specific. The grain section is where I lost my mind a little bit. So Alzheimer's drugs. There are basically two families. One family blocks an enzyme called acetylcholinesterase, which normally chews up the memory neurotransmitter. Block it, you have more memory chemical floating around. That's donepezil, that's Aricept. The second family blocks a different enzyme called MAOB, which protects dopamine and reduces brain oxidative stress. Researchers studying the clove compound found it blocks both of these enzymes at the same time, one natural molecule hitting two completely separate Alzheimer's drug targets simultaneously. And then there's a rat study. This one's almost too small a dose to believe. 0.01 milligrams per kilogram of Eugenol, given to rats with experimentally induced Alzheimer's. Memory improved. Amyloid plaques in the hippocampus dropped significantly. That's the part of the brain that fails first in Alzheimer's. And a tiny clove-derived dose was reducing the gunk that builds up there. Now look, am I saying eat cloves to prevent Alzheimer's? No. Animal studies don't translate cleanly to humans, but the mechanism is real, and it's worth knowing about. Heart and blood vessels next. You know aspirin thins the blood, right? It works by stopping platelets from clumping. The downside is you bleed more easily. Stomach bleeds, nosebleeds, bruising. Eugenol does the same anti-clumping thing, at a really tiny concentration too, only 2 micromolar. But here's the wild part. In the lung clot animal studies, Eugenol prevented dangerous clots without extending bleeding time, so you get the protection without the bleeding risk. That's not how aspirin works. That's not how Plavix works. It's selective in a way the prescription drugs aren't. And cloves don't even rely on just Eugenol for this. There's a second compound called acetyl-eugenol that also blocks clotting. 2 different antiplatelet molecules in the same spice, belt and suspenders. For blood pressure, cloves act on 4 different mechanisms at once. They inhibit ACE, the enzyme drugs like lisinopril target. They activate nitric oxide production, same pathway nitroglycerin uses. They block calcium channels, same as amlodipine. And they open potassium channels in blood vessel walls, which relaxes them. 4 prescription drug categories, 1 molecule. I keep saying that, and it keeps not getting less weird. Kidneys, shorter section but important. There are 2 famous kidney toxic drugs, cisplatin, used in chemotherapy, gentamicin, used for serious bacterial infections. Both can wreck your kidneys. In animal studies, Eugenol given alongside these drugs protected kidney function, specifically by downregulating the free radical-producing enzymes NOx2 and NOx4, and lowering TGF-beta, which is the signal that turns short-term kidney damage into permanent scarring. If you've ever had a relative on chemo or long-term antibiotics, this matters. The kidneys take quiet hits from a lot of common medications, and most people never even know it's happening. Stomach now, and this is the part where I started to feel like the whole pharmaceutical industry was missing something obvious. Acid reflux medications. Omeprazole, esomeprazole, pantoprazole, all the prazoles. They all work the same way. They block your stomach from making acid. Sounds great, except you actually need stomach acid. You need it for iron absorption, for B12, for calcium, for killing bacteria in your food. Long-term acid blocker use is now linked to bone loss, kidney damage, infections, and there's even some Alzheimer's risk signal in the data. People take these for years and don't know any of this. Eugenol heals ulcers a completely different way. Researchers measured stomach acid levels in rats given clove and found no change. The acid stayed exactly the same. What changed was the mucus layer that protects the stomach lining. It got thicker and more robust. So instead of taking away the acid, the clove was reinforcing the wall. Smart approach. Why isn't this the standard treatment? I genuinely don't know. One caveat though, there's a dose paradox here that you have to respect. At low doses, Eugenol heals ulcers. They found 33 to 52% faster healing in animal studies. At very high doses, like 100 times higher, Eugenol actually made ulcers worse by 49%. So a culinary pinch of clove? Helpful. Chugging concentrated clove oil from a bottle? Bad idea. Don't do it. People do, by the way. There are TikToks. Please don't. Also, and this is good news for anyone dealing with stubborn stomach issues, Eugenol breaks down the biofilms that H. pylori bacteria use to hide from antibiotics. H. pylori is the bacterium behind 70% of stomach ulcers and a major stomach cancer risk factor. And it's getting more antibiotic resistant every year because of these biofilms. Clove breaks the biofilm, antibiotics can then get in. Bone section, quick. There's an injection called Prolia that doctors give for osteoporosis. Costs a fortune. It blocks a signal in your body called rank L that tells your bones to break themselves down. Block the signal, bones stop being demolished, bone density stabilizes. Eugenol blocks rank L too, not as potently as the injection, obviously, but through the same pathway. In ovariectomized rats, which is the standard model for postmenopausal osteoporosis, clove extract preserved bone mineral density, bone strength, and stopped calcium from leaking out into the urine. That last part is huge, because urinary calcium loss is one of the early warning signs of bone thinning, and almost nobody checks for it. Lungs. If you've ever taken Singulair, Montelukast, for asthma or allergies, the drug works by blocking leukotrienes, which are inflammatory molecules in your airways. Eugenol blocks the enzyme that makes leukotrienes in the first place, called 5-lipoxygenase, so it's one step upstream of the prescription drug. It also blocks the enzyme that makes histamine, which is one step upstream of antihistamines like Zytec or Claritin. So while Zytec is blocking the histamine receptor after histamine is already made, Clove is reducing the histamine before it ever shows up. Different strategy, possibly more elegant. In severe lung inflammation models, Eugenol also brought down TNF-alpha, NF-κB, and COX-2, basically the three biggest inflammation signals in lung disease. Eyes. Two findings worth mentioning. Diabetic cataracts. About 60% of long-term diabetics get them eventually. The mechanism is that high blood sugar feeds an enzyme called aldose reductase that makes sorbitol inside the lens of the eye. Sorbitol can't get back out. It builds up, the lens swells, and goes cloudy. Eugenol inhibits aldose reductase. That's it. That's the whole mechanism for preventing this specific kind of cataract. Second one, glaucoma. The eye drops doctors prescribe for high eye pressure target an enzyme called carbonic anhydrase 2. Eugenol derivatives hit this enzyme at concentrations comparable to the prescription drugs, so in theory, the same compound family could lower eye pressure. Skin. This one's funny. Eugenol blocks tyrosinase, which is the enzyme that makes melanin, so it could lighten dark spots and hyperpigmentation. But in different cells, at different concentrations, it actually activates a transcription factor that increases melanin production, so it can lighten or darken depending on context, which makes it potentially interesting for vitiligo research too. Vitiligo is where pigment disappears in patches, and people desperately want it back. Same molecule, two opposite effects, both useful in different situations. On wounds, clove oil emulsions in rat studies achieved 95% wound closure by day 16, comparable to standard medical wound creams. The clove oil promotes collagen synthesis at low concentrations. Important word there. Low. Higher concentrations are toxic to skin cells. The dose paradox keeps showing up. Why does clove oil numb a toothache, by the way? This is a fun one. Eugenol blocks the exact same sodium channels in nerve cells that lidocaine blocks. So it works by an actual anesthetic mechanism, not just by being a folk remedy. But on top of that, it triggers the receptor that responds to chili peppers, called TRVP1, which gives you that brief, warm, tingling feeling before the receptor gets overwhelmed and goes silent. Then, it also acts on the receptor that responds to wasabi, and the one that responds to warmth, and a couple of others involved in nerve pain. One compound, 5 different pain-related ion channels. That's why clove has worked as a dental remedy for literal centuries before anyone could explain why. I'll keep the reproductive stuff brief because there's a lot of nonsense online about this. Clove and testosterone has a U-shaped dose response in animal studies. Low doses, around 15 milligrams per kilogram in mice, boost testosterone and improve sperm motility through 2 specific steroid-producing enzymes. Higher doses, like 20 to 40 milligrams per kilogram, do the opposite. Testosterone drops, sperm motility drops. So the popular drink cloves water every day for masculine vitality content that's circulating on social media is not just unfounded, it might be doing the opposite of what people think. Use cloves like a spice. Don't try to weaponize them. There's also a compound called Eugenol in cloves that interferes with the herpes simplex virus type 1 DNA replication machinery, which is genuinely interesting for cold sore research. Finally, cancer. I'm going to be cautious here. No spice cures cancer. Nobody should ever read a YouTube video and start treating cancer with cloves. That said, the laboratory mechanisms are real and interesting. At that same low 2 micromolar concentration, same as the platelet effect, Eugenol selectively kills breast cancer cells by shutting down 2 proteins called E2F1 and survivin. And this part is important. It works whether or not P53 is mutated. P53 is the tumor suppressor gene that fails in most aggressive cancers, and most chemotherapy depends on a working P53 to function. Eugenol doesn't need P53. In colorectal cancer cells, Eugenol increases the activity of tumor suppressor genes and decreases the activity of a cancer-driving gene called KRAS, which is the gene mutated in most pancreatic cancers, most colon cancers, and a huge chunk of lung cancers. And it disrupts the way cancer cells generate their energy, which is the Warburg effect Otto Warburg figured out 100 years ago. Again, laboratory cell culture, not a treatment plan. But the mechanisms are not made up, and they are not nothing. So that's where I landed at the end of these 3 weeks. Cloves are not a miracle. They will not cure your disease. They will not replace medications. But they are doing something inside your body. Every time you put one in your tea, every time you grind one into a curry, that is far stranger and more specific than the standard health advice gives them credit for. The molecule is acting like a tiny pharmacist with too many prescriptions to fill. Liver, pancreas, brain, blood, kidneys, stomach, bones, lungs, eyes, skin, nerves. Everywhere it goes, it's doing something that mirrors a real drug somebody somewhere is paying real money for. And it's been sitting in your kitchen the whole time. Sometimes I just think about that and shake my head.